Welcome to the Real Triathlon Podcast. I'm your host, Garrick Lowen, here with Nicholas Chase and Jackson Laundry. Welcome back to the Real Triathlon Podcast. Today we got the whole crew here. Nick is just Nick dropped off. All right. We have pretty much everybody, but we also have, so we got Lisa, we got Jackson, and we have the Zone 2 swimming connoisseur, expert, lover, Greg Harper. And Greg, I only say that because you race in Zone 2 in the swim.
Always. And I only swim Zone 2. I usually do 3 to 4K straight every time I get in the pool, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. Zone 2, baby. That's all we do.
That's it. I mean, I know that for a fact, as we trained together for what, 10 days or a week in Florida. And when Lionel put that post up asking if everyone does those 30-minute time trials, Greg's like, that's all I do. That's all you need.
Wait, did he put a post up asking that about swimming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who does 30 minutes? Like, at least do a 2K. I guess that probably does take him 30 minutes. That's me.
Oh, shut up.
Actually, though, to be totally honest, it's probably not really that far off. That's not that slow.
That's 130 per 100 meters.
Yeah, he probably does like 28 minutes for 2K.
Yeah. No, in all seriousness, so if you guys didn't know, that was complete sarcasm. I need to say it sometimes when we're being sarcastic. But we got Greg here.
Exact same way as when you're being serious, so people don't really know.
Yeah, but if it's completely ridiculous, just assume that it's sarcasm, and I'm not a politician. So, but we got Greg here. Greg's let out of the water in I'm gonna assume every race he's ever done, but he let out of the water 70.3 worlds this year, and he's currently the best swimmer in triathlon. Mark the Shark famously touted him as Greg the Megalodon. Harper,
I think it's Greg should be called Mr. December. That's forever his name for me.
Wait, you mean Mark or Greg?
Greg.
Well, I thought I coined that for Mark.
Yeah, you're reusing names here.
Come on.
I don't know if Mark ever really deserved it though.
Well, he almost won. Yeah, he did. Last year he he got second at Indian Wells, and then he went and won the Ecuador race the next weekend or whatever.
Oh shit. Okay, well Greg, you're no longer Mr. December to anybody but me.
Ecuador? How many pros are there? Like 4?
There was
me, Nick, and him.
Justin Reale.
You beat me though.
Justin was there.
Justin almost beat me.
Oh man.
Anyway, what are we talking about today? Greg's here, so probably running.
Greg's here, so thinking real estate.
Crowdsource my swimming.
Yeah. Ooh, I have a couple questions, Greg, that I want to jump into because the past week I've swam like absolute dog shit. And I think it's because I have not prioritized swimming first thing in the morning. I've done it like later on in my training. So because I'm in, I was about to say Florida. I'm actually in Arizona. And so I'm like wanting to swim when it's nice and sunny outside and do like runs in the morning. And what's the deal? Should I always prioritize swimming first so I'm less fatigued and I can actually have buoyancy in my body? Or should I just like learn how to suck it up and learn how to swim better fatigued? What are your takes?
I would say it depends on if you're trying to like level up your swimming or not, you know? Like if you're trying to like maintain, I think doing it in the morning sometimes and in the afternoon sometimes, but just know maybe in the morning sessions it can be more quality and the afternoons are kind of like easier sessions. But I think swimming when you're tired too and holding good body position is important, but it doesn't happen in a triathlon, right? Unless you're racing Super League or something like that. But it is hard to do. I think if you have a good break between the afternoon swim, like say you ride and run in the morning, you have like 3 hours and you eat and you like chill and then you can go back to the pool, maybe you can swim a little bit better. But I would say just don't do it every day unless you're already at the top of the swimming, or else, yeah, the quality will just kind of go bad. And then shorten the intervals. Like if your coach gives you 300s and you feel like shit, do hundreds or 50s on the same work to rest. And I think that's always good to like keep your body positioned up. Everyone tries to grind through long intervals, and I find it's it's not the way. So
I've
that's what
just
I would
been
say.
I've just been calling workouts. I'm like, can't do it. And then I just do 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I put on different gear the whole time.
That's like the opposite of what I would say to do, which is pretty standard for you.
Greg, I have a question about some philosophies that are like in like long distance swimmers. I've done some like reading on some of the Olympic swimmers and how they've like their coaches have put out some books. I can't even remember their names, so that's how important it was. But they were just saying like they would spend so much time like with the 80-20 rule doing long sets. You know, obviously they have good technique and good position and everything, but should swim technique and training be something triathletes look into also, or is like our training and everything we go through, should that be a little bit more polarized?
I think you just have to really think about who you're talking about. And triathletes think they have to do these like really long intervals or like do long open water swims to be prepared for their races. But open water swimmers, just as professionals or long distance swimmers, they don't have the fatigue of like cycling and running as well to deal with. So it's like it can be very different. Um, I would say, yeah, I mean, I stress speed, a lot, right? But that means you do a lot of aerobic, easy work and the high end speed. And I'm kind of against that like long, grindy, medium type of stuff. Because I think triathletes spend enough time doing that in general. And swimming, if you get tired in that grindy medium, you just reinforce the bad habits. Pro swimmers can do 1,000-yard repeats because their technique's perfect, but triathletes, in the end, they can't. So it depends on who you are. Now, I will say I can do anything, honestly. And like that's not me being like an arrogant prick. It's like I've done everything my whole life, so I could just go do swim 1,000-yard repeats and I'd probably be okay, but most people probably can't do that as triathletes.
Well, I've seen Lauren Brandon as well. Like when I trained with her in Park City, she would swim like 2 to 3K and maybe sometimes hit like a 4 or 5K like once every few fours. Like once
You
you're
could do
pretty good,
whatever.
yeah,
Hmm.
technique wise, you all like are so gifted and talented. Like you just don't have to do what everyone else has to do because you've got decades behind you.
Yeah, we did it already. And
Yeah.
all the stuff I preach in the pool, like sometimes I really am not taking my own advice, but I want people to, you have to get to that point. I say you have to learn how to swim like a swimmer before you can get away swimming like a triathlete. And
Like
I think that's a real, I really think that's like wise words.
Yeah, they're wise because they're coming from you, right?
Well, I mean, you're my swim coach, so you let me know. Like,
No, man, I actually really like that quote. Because yeah, like a lot of people seem to skip that because they're only concerned with covering the distance. They don't care how hard it is for them to cover the distance. They don't care how fast they cover the distance. They just want to cover the distance. And if
Which is
they
fair
can,
enough for a lot of people, to be honest. Like, especially if
yeah,
you're doing an
there's,
Ironman. It's like if you're just going to finish your Ironman, whether you swim 130 or 140, probably doesn't matter that much as long
but
as
at
you're
what
not killing
cost?
yourself to
Yeah.
finish it. Um, but yeah, we're obviously talking about high level pros, general pros, high level age group, people who are really trying to get that last bit of performance out of it.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of us, kind of when we're asking Greg these questions, we understand your philosophy because we did spend a week just listening to you talk about swimming. And I don't think most people listening really understand a lot of your philosophy. And I'd like for you to kind of just touch on that. Like if you're starting with, let's say you're starting with a mid pack age group, just your average swimmer, what are you looking at in their program because they don't have a lot of time to swim, like even pro triathletes, like the top end pros, the minimum, like we're probably only swimming 20 to 25K a week, which for a swimmer is absolutely nothing, and we're trying to improve on that, right? So a mid pack swimmer is only maybe swimming 10K a week, 12K if they're really pushing it. Like where's your philosophy on that and developing a swimmer like that?
oh, that's a super good question. And the first thing I like to do is like see the person swim so you have an understanding of like what their tendencies are. And the way I program for age groupers, pretty much if you're coached by me, I put in 15K a week. I think that's kind of like I mean, if you're really time crunched, we can change it. Or if you're very new to swimming, you can definitely like. There's so many different. It's like brand new to swimming. I've been swimming for 3 years. I haven't gotten that much better, or like I'm solid. And then there's like high level, and it's all kind of different. But I would say the main themes are people always are like, "Oh, this is so dumb," but like your 100-meter freestyle time s- developing swimmers, like when you're a kid, we're all doing sprints and stuff all the time. So you need to work on your speed and also do like a solid aerobic volume. But everyone thinks speed is like, oh, VO2, like crush workouts. I'm like, no, I'm talking like do 425s fast 3 or 4 times a week, in addition to like this other work that you do, and like reinforce good technique on those 25s, kind of reset. So it's like do aerobic swimming, do sculling, do drills that a coach prescribes to you based on how they see video footage. Do IM, be a competent swimmer. You got to be able to dolphin kick underwater, have a good turn, be able to hold your breath a little bit through a turn. All these little things I think of as the fundamentals. And then once you can get those done, then you can get fit and have it mean something, right? I mean, fitness isn't a problem for most triathletes. They're pretty fit. Um, but it's really all this mechanical, technical things that you do. I think if swimming is like 40 boxes, it's like, can you scull? Can you kick on your side without drowning? Can you vertical kick? Can you swim backstroke? And you want to check all these little boxes, and that's the fundamental piece. It's not your aerobic conditioning, which is obviously important, but checking those boxes, doing a little bit of speed, you don't have to go crazy on it. Triathletes just go, I'm super into swimming. I want to do a bunch of drills. And they do 1,000 of drills every day for 2 weeks, and then they stop doing it. So it's really about small doses of consistency of like drills, I am bead on a program that I would say is about 15K a week. And I think that's kind of like a sweet spot for a lot of triathletes, um, to be able to finish the distance well. You might think crazy, oh, 15K to finish swim a mile. Yeah, I think that's like an appropriate amount that to swim the back half of that mile and good fitness. Kind of rambled on that one, but that's it in a nutshell, I would say.
I
I
have a,
feel, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna ask a short question. What's if you could only choose one drill to assign swimmers for the forever, what drill would it be?
Oh, he's gonna say depends on the swimmer.
No, one
No,
overland drill. One drill.
I don't know if you consider this a drill, but I'd probably say sculling, even though I don't really think of it as like a drill per se. But I had this buddy, and he was in high school. He would do 500 scull, and that's the only training he would do. He said, "All I need to do is scull." He could swim a 52, 100 butterfly yards. Never trained, only sculled. He said, "That's the only thing I need to
Wait,
do."
he wouldn't even do
No,
butterfly?
rarely. I mean, he was like, and he was gifted, obviously. Like he had a natural, and he grew up swimming. But it's like because you can skull in a bunch of different ways too. So it's kind of cheap. There's so many different ways to skull. I think sculling is like really important. It can be such a strong, tough workout to feel the catch in different positions. Um,
What's the skull?
yeah.
The sculling when you're like down here. What's the purpose of that one? When you're like,
Do you like what's your body? Where's your body?
That was a terrible pantomime of a skull.
You mean at your waist? Like when
like
you're
like
vertical?
when it's like all your hand is all the way, like you finish the stroke.
It's
And you're
finishers.
Yeah. That's like it's like a
like,
tricep extension. Like every time you take a stroke, that back finishing of the stroke is just a tricep extension. And that's
yeah.
why, like, if you swim a distance event in a swim meet, or if your triceps have never been sore in swimming, you don't finish your stroke correctly. So I think that's like Mark did it on his Instagram, like not the other day. It was kind of like finishers. But yeah, I think it's like practicing finishing that stroke past your hip. And that's a good school, I would say.
And keeping pressure on the water while you're finishing your stroke. Because I filmed my stroke when we were at camp, and like my hand position's good, but there's no acceleration through the water, and there's just no pressure on the water down there. So like I thought I was doing it well, but then there was no pressure. So I've been doing those finishers like every swim now.
I was doing them the other day too. Yeah, and it's like my tricep was like a little sore. I was like, oh, this is like a good, and even someone who's swimming their whole life, like just reintroducing some stimulus. Like you've swum a lot in your life, reintroduce a few stimuluses you haven't done in the past, you'll pick it up quick. And like, it's just that constant revisiting of stuff over the years, I think is important for anyone.
I think for swimming, it's most frustrating for me as a coach because everyone, and I guess it's just because I work with triathletes mostly, but triathletes are like the most, like if we had a religion, like triathletes would be like probably Mormons, or they would just go all in. There's only one way to do it. They'd be so polarized, and then they would like be so hot and cold, multi-level marketing aspects of it. There's no actual substance is what I'm trying to say behind a lot of triathlete beliefs and mindsets. It's just like, oh, well, Lionel said this. Oh, Matt Sharp said this. Oh, Greg did. Like, there's no actual steady course. And I think that's what we have to start fixing, is because we can swim or we can bike and run pretty well and get all this growth opportunity easy because it's comprehensible for most people. Like, well, if I want to go faster during this race and there's a downhill, I need to get faster going downhill. I need to take corners quickly. I don't need to be riding the brakes or after whatever. We address those things pretty pragmatically. But when it comes to a swim, people just don't want to do the work. They want to like read one thing and have that be the gospel, and then that fixes all their problems. And that's the most frustrating mindset aspect, I think, is triathlete coaches who are, decent at swimming. Greg, obviously, you know the best of it, but like the mindset is what we have to start training and talking differently about, because there's not one drill, there's not one type of training, there's not one stroke. You can't do this every third day. Like, you've just got to really get involved. And I think you said it earlier, like, you have to train like a swimmer. Everyone's always like, well, why am I flip turning? I'm never going to flip turn. Like, because it teaches you so many, like, why learn how to go downhill on a bike then? Because your race course is flat. So why would you ever go downhill?
Dude, I say that same thing. Like, oh, so you shouldn't practice riding your bike in the hills, right? Because you're going on a flat course. Like, that's idiotic, right?
I think that's really where your platform is going to start taking off a lot more, is because like it's a total just desensitized mindset of like even just listening to somebody else on the pool deck, like, oh yeah, you should probably do this. All right, I'll do this for 16 weeks and I'll tell you how it went. I don't know who you are, and you probably don't. You're worse swimmer than me, but I'll listen to you.
No, well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I really love one thing about in camp that I didn't know about you, Nick, about like your mindset and how you approach things and think about life. And I was inspired by it. I was like, wow, I didn't know you were like so wise and stuff. So that makes me happy. But I think and that's why I'm harping like the watch thing, like it's tongue in cheek, right? I'm like, don't wear a watch in the pool. But that reel that I post on Instagram, which is my most viral reel, I still get more views. It's like, if you wear a watch, you're in the wrong mindset. Because I do believe that. It's like, you have to unplug. You have to do things. You have to variety. You can put in more effort and not get anywhere. If you bike harder, you will go faster. If you run harder, you will go faster. If you swim harder, you might not. But you have to have like a well-rounded program too. Like I see stuff in Training Peaks. I sub in some swims now, but I see what these people were getting from tri coaches, which the market's inundated with them now. It's like, this is you won't get better doing this. Like, so I like what you say, but it's the whole you have to buy into it. Like, if you're like, well, I don't need to do flip turns and underwaters and all this stuff, it's like, well, change your mindset and then maybe you can get better. But if you don't, you will not get better.
Which is also your point, I think, might have been Garrick earlier, about working with athletes who already have, barely 12 hours a week to train because they own their own practice and they've got 2 kids and they go on ski trips, but they want to win their age group and they really want to do well. But how do you effectively, nicely and politely say, well, I'm sorry, but your swim is always going to be on the back foot unless we dedicate like 4 weeks with the swim as the priority, and everything else that you love on Zwift and going Zwift racing and running on track, like you're going to have to sacrifice some of that if you want to get that extra 5 to 6 minutes out of the water and put yourself in a different category of the race. And that mindset, I haven't ever seen anyone love.
Yeah, I mean, the black line is tough, like looking at the pool, and I get that 100%. It's funny though. I started coaching this pro actually a couple weeks ago, and he texted me. He's like, "That was the most fun I ever had in a week of swimming," because he was just doing shit that he's never done. And I was like, "Great! Like, celebrate it. It's not always going to be like that, but hopefully you can get someone to buy in. It's really tough though. But anyone who I've ever started coaching in swimming, I've never like lost the client. So I think when people like get into it, they realize that I'll write an engaging workout too. So I think people, it takes them a buy, and I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel. Like, oh, deprioritize. I need to change the stimulus, and like keep them like having fun, and hopefully swim with masters, all
Yeah.
that type of stuff.
One more thing before I let someone else start talking too, but I think my best ever swimming ever, and this is when I was like maybe, I mean, the swimming is changed a little bit. Maybe when I was like more top five out of the water at some races is when I was doing master sessions with a group in the morning that was competitive, and it was developed by a swimmer. It was a swim team masters, and it was like between 4 and 6K Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5:30 in the morning. It was my first workout of the day. It was 50-meter, and that was the best I ever swam. And I don't know if we ever did a drill during any of that because like I was too slow to keep up with the real swimmers when they were doing their drills. So I would just be like, I'm gonna just do one drill and 3 strokes and try to keep up. But the group atmosphere, I always want athletes to experience that because you look around at other athletes underwater and you're like, well, that sucks. They're going slow. I need to not do that. Like, how in your perspective, does a group atmosphere change the dynamic?
It's just about like having fun. I mean, that's it. Like exercising with friends. And the more fun it is, like all my best friends in my life are swimmers because you form relationships with them, and like it's so fun. And that's the most what's going to be how are you going to be consistent over months and years? Enjoying it. That's it. In the end, it's like your mental headspace. Are you enjoy If you dread going to the pool, hang it up and quit. You're not going to get better. Find a squad, have fun. But like you said, and I think that's the reason why you're a successful swimmer, Nick. You had the student mindset right when you started. Like, oh, let me look at this good swimmer, see what they're doing. Like, I don't understand people who are like, oh, well, I don't know how to swim backstroke, so I can't do that. I'm like, go on the internet, man. Like, what are we talking about here? You can figure out a baseline and go try it without drowning. Like, so, you know, once again, they got to change their mindset a little bit. And you always seem like someone who had a growth mindset from like a young age, which I think has suited you really well in your life.
And I didn't start swim till I was 24 years old, man, ever. And I just got so lucky that I could figure it out and not suck so bad. I'm so glad.
Well, your mindset was big, and 50 meters, a good program, all the little things I think you did that made a big difference. Because I think 50 meters is important and stuff
And it
like
was
that
the
too.
only time that when I would go train with Jackson where I would like have an edge. I'd be like,
You
Jackson would just,
always swim faster than me
but in a race, I would
in the
totally
pool.
fuck it up.
No, you still beat me out of the water sometimes, especially when it's choppy. But yeah, you know, save
Well,
my magic for the race. Well,
Jack,
I'm also not that good at the flip turns and stuff. I could definitely work on some of those fundamentals, flip turns, better streamlines. I can't streamline that well with my shoulder since the surgery, but I could still try and work on getting more mobility back. Um, but yeah,
When when
there's a few
when
things
people
there I
talk
could pick
about
up on.
flip turning, I think about it like this. When you push off the wall, it's the fastest you're going to ever be, right? So give yourself a chance to sustain that speed. And if you push off with a great streamline and you rock it off the wall and you take 2 strokes and then you kind of go a little slower again, right? You just did 2 strokes sustaining speed you've never sustained. And if you did that off every single wall for months on end, all of a sudden you accumulated an hour's worth of time trying to just giving yourself a chance to sustain this incredible speed. And in the end, it's like you just accumulated the time like that. And I think it's all those little things that do make a difference. And shoulder mobility, all that type of, I'm gonna hate on Lionel, not hate on him because we all love Lionel. In his YouTube videos, he's doing all this stuff 15 minutes before his swim, and then you see him in the pool, and he's just like he's stiff as a board. I'm like, bro, why are you wasting your time doing that shoulder mobility? Like your elbows dragging on the water while you swim. It's like I don't understand people do that type of stuff. You're just wasting your time unless you're applying it to the pool.
how do you feel about dry land and core stability and cross body type strength works for, off pool stuff? Are you a proponent of that?
I think if there's weaknesses, sure, but people are like, oh, I gotta get a stronger core. Like I can't. I'm just like, I don't know if you're just not holding yourself quite in the right. That's why it's like, can you sidekick? It's not your strength. It's like you don't know how to hold your body quite in the water. That's why doing all these little things, I think it's more important. It's like, oh, Lionel, he's kind of snaking in the water. His core strength isn't the issue,
Core
you
strength's
know?
probably better than anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm a proponent of it. Like, there's lots of all great swimmers do dry land and are tough in this. But if you're generally a strong person, it's probably more about the little things that you do in the pool rather than what you're doing outside of the pool.
The timing of the core, because as you pull, you need to time that rotation to use those core muscles in coincidence with your arm muscles to get the maximum force at your fingers. And that's what really every single very good swimmer, they might not have a perfect catch, they might not have perfect, elbow position, whatever, but when that comes to the powerful part of that stroke, the timing of that rotation is just so beautiful. It's like it looks like you're not even trying, and it's so much force production. Like sometimes you see, like one time I did do like a swim team thing when I was like 17 for a summer. I jumped in for like 3 or 4 days a week, and it was like all ages, and it was just like slow to fast lane. So I was in like the third fastest lane or second maybe. I was like 17 and I was like 18, I think. And there was I was swimming with like mostly 13 to 16-year-old girls. Had been swimming their whole lives, and they're obviously not as strong as me, like no way, but they were like they just had this perfect coordination, and like they could produce so much speed. Even in sprints they were faster than me. I'm like, this is crazy. And that's where I really figured out, like, okay, there's like levels to this, and like my level of skill is low, my fitness is high, but I've just got to get this technique, and I'm still freaking working my ass off on technique. But it's pretty amazing when you see like a 12-year-old girl dive in and do like 25 meter in like 13 seconds, and she's mad. She's like, oh, that was slow. It's like, wait, 13? What? Like, what just happened?
I do, isn't it like it kind of in triathlon? I feel like triathletes are way closer to the world level of runners and bikers versus swimmers. Like we're so, I don't know, at least that's my take. We're so much further away in the swimming aspect versus like the biking and running. Or maybe just, I think it might be like bike, run, swim.
Well, for Olympic distance, it's probably not too far off for the bike and run, but I think for the swim and the Olympic distance, pure swimmers would just walk all over a triathlete.
That is the proportions of the race, right? Like if you're really close on the swim, for one thing, like there's a little bit of physiology and body types. Like if you look at the best swimmers in the world that are 6'5", 6'6", and they have these tiny little legs that are really short, well, that might not work for running 10K really fast. You know what I mean? So the triathlete is like the average of all these different sports, but I feel like we shift a little more towards the bike runners just because that's what the sport calls for. But you do still have like a lot of the top swimmers, like Greg would know, obviously he's one of them, but like how fast would the top ITU guys swim like a 1,500-meter pool race? Like still under 16, some of them, wouldn't it be? They're like right around that 16 mark, and like the world record's like under 15, so they're pretty close.
Yeah. Well, the world record's like 14:30 something. Um,
That's so
and
fast.
yeah, I would say 16 flat, that's like 104. I would say that's like the upper. I mean,
For long
we talk
course
about their
meters.
best, yeah, long course meters. We talk about the best times of someone like Richard Varga. He's like
Mm-hmm.
a 15:50. He's basically the best triathlon swimmer ever, but they're not in that shape now, too, is the thing. So, then you think about someone like Morgan Pearson who can run probably a sub 14-minute 5K now, and guys run 12:40, which is like a minute or something. So I think Lisa's spot on with that. And obviously the turns and things play a big role. Like when you lift in college for swimming, it's a lot of legs because you need to be explosive off the blocks and you need to be explosive off the turns. So I think that is a big part of it too. But even in open water, but yeah, I mean, I think triathletes and and pro triathletes too just leave a lot on the table. I mean, it's so much frustration. It's never fitness issues. Like,
For-
right? I mean, some of these people have the best VO2 maxes on the planet, like Christian Blumenfeld. I mean, he isn't a front pack ITU swimmer, really. He's not.
I think it would be super frustrating, and I can only say this just because I also know him and I won't feel bad. But Lukas Voigt, the German, like 6'5" or 8", I don't want to short. He's so tall. When he pushes off the wall, when we were swimming together, he'd be like another person ahead of me with just his arms. So it had to be so frustrating for him to be like minutes ahead of everybody, and then just get passed on the bike, and then get passed on the run because he's so tall and he's a unit and he's just built for swimming, and that's how he was an Olympic swimmer for Germany. Like it has to be even more like, imagine that. Like imagine Sam Long being last out but finishing on the podium. Would you rather have that, or would you rather like lead the swim by 2 minutes but then lose the, miss the podium by 15 to 20 minutes? Like what would you rather have? I don't know.
Well, I did that at 70.3 Worlds. I let out the swim and I finished 20 minutes back. So,
So
yeah,
it's
I mean,
tough, right?
it's tough for sure. But yeah, I mean, Lucas Woj, he probably really was the fastest triathlon swimmer ever as a pro, but
Underrated too.
he never was really like a pro. I mean, he had some decent results, like some Ironmans he did well, but he was never a big name pro for that reason too. But his body type lent itself for swimming, which why he was an Olympic swimmer. I mean, then you look at like a pure runner, they're not going to be a great triathlete either. You think about someone like Grant Fisher or something like that. It's like, I think these guys would be good triathletes. I mean, Cole Hawker, maybe a little bit more, like he probably bike, but who knows if they could swim. So yeah, you kind of got to pick your poison, I
I was
guess.
just reading this
Really
book.
good runners have horrible ankle mobility when it comes to plantar flexing. So usually their kick's super inefficient, and then they're just, obviously it's so different. Like the range of motion is very like this, and then you're doing the exact opposite with swimming. Like if you ran your whole life and you jump to swimming, I think it could be tough if you're that fast, if you're that like specialized.
100%. Well, I say this a lot to people who I'm starting to coach if they're runners, because if your ankle isn't like pointed and it's like slightly flexed, it's like we think about how air moves over us on the bike and how it pulls behind you. It's the same thing in the swim, but exacerbated. It's like you're dragging around an anchor. Like you're not going to be swimming fast if your ankles are not if your toes are not pointed.
So I just came back from that Spain trip where I didn't get to train as much and I swam enough, but then I sat so much. And I got back in the pool for the first week, and there was not one swim out of my 4 that I didn't get like a foot or an arch cramp. And I would have to swim with like one foot totally fucked up and just clubbed, and one just trying to kick. And let me just tell you, like you cannot swim with anything besides a pointed toe and go fast. If you have a club foot, or you have no ankle flexibility, you got to fix that. You got to sit on those ankles like every night, and when you're watching freaking two whatever,
Rick and Morty.
Love is Blind or something.
Traders. Good show we just been watching. Yeah,
What
that's
is
a great
it?
point, Nick. It's called The Traders. It's pretty awful. It's like it's a reality show. Check it out. It's on Peacock.
Peacock drop.
Yeah, that's a
Sponsored.
great thought though, Nick. And we sit so much these days, right? I mean, inevitably you will just sit a lot. So, and biking and running, you're just reinforcing that same, dorsiflexion essentially.
Greg, how do you teach? So I always kind of categorize the swimmers I see like into like propulsion issues, timing issues, or overall collective body position issues. And so when it comes to kicking, that usually is a poor body position issue. And I'll use a vertical kick drill, or I'll have them do something to turn on the kick. But how do you teach people who have a poor kick? Because that's probably the biggest problem triathletes have, is they try to kick from the knee. What type of drills, what type of concepts do you help people engage in to fix their kick?
Yeah, I think vertical kicking, that's a really great one, Nick, because you just like you have to like have an even kick. It'll force you to have a kick. I usually say kick in the bucket. I think I heard this from like Brenton Ford maybe. And where you're not kicking too wide or anything, kind of like nice fast kicks. I'll do a lot of like body position kick where they use a kickboard and like it's out in front of them, they're holding the bottom, and I'll just be like, keep your head and your hips and your heels on the surface. So just getting them like just splashing in the water on the surface and just kind of feeling that body position, I think helps a lot. Um, and know that you have to kind of like flex the posterior chain a little bit to like keep the legs up. But it's hard. It's like you can't just be like, oh, engage your core and then hold your legs up. It's hard to do. You almost have to like try to trick them into doing it without thinking, and then maybe they can do it. But yeah, I think just kicking more, and kicking on your back, doing side kicking and having balance, all that type of stuff. And fin kicking can be beneficial too, because when you go faster, it's easier to keep the legs up, and that might loosen your ankles up a little bit too. So, but yeah, I think vertical kicking would probably be my favorite one, honestly, and I think that teaches it well.
And Jackson and Garrick will know this one too, but head leading rotation kicking is one of my favorites, where you just have your arms just kind of right in front of your crotch, and you have to use your kick and your core while kicking to get your head rotated around to breathe. So I think Jackson probably loves that one too.
I think I put that on my Instagram once, like a year ago. That's a great one. Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, I do that one. Question for you, for someone, me, who doesn't get the lower back on the surface. A lot of that's, you talked about at camp, having that core posture, like being tall, having like not arching your lower back, having everything kind of very straight. And then what, like, for me, I have a better time when I have a cue that's like trying to achieve something rather than trying to, like, for example, if it's like, okay, try to keep your whatever on the surface, I can like figure out the body required movements to achieve that, more so than like, okay, kick smaller, you know what I mean? Like doing like the actual outcome, trying to get the outcome seems to work better for me. So what could I think about? It would be literally as simple as that, like keep the lower back as high as you can, and then like
feel air
yeah,
on your lower back. Feel
air.
air.
Oh
No, I like that, and that's something I'm trying to do better. I feel like you always have to grow kind of as a coach and person. I like my hot takes, like don't do this, like you're gonna swim like a piece of shit. But in the end, it's like people respond to like a positive thing, right? Like kick in the bucket. Don't kick wide, or don't low arch your back. Keep your back, feel air on your lower back. So I think those are actionable, and that could be one for you. And we were just talking about the body position kick thing. That might be the one to try it out with a little bit for you. So if you use that board to kind of stabilize, and then you can kind of play with the chest and your body to feel that. And maybe you do 425s like that. You're like, oh, I got a great position. And then you just try to swim a 25 in that perfect position. And you can, do that a couple times and warm up for a few weeks and see if it can make a small change, which is, like Nick said, it's just these small changes over time. I mean,
yeah, I don't need
everyone
10
wants to
seconds per
read
100. I need two.
this is it. This is the thing. I'm going to be a great swimmer now. It's like that's not how it works.
Yeah, everyone's obsessed with the secret, man. Especially swimming, they always think there's a secret to it, and they never want to just get stuck into it.
Tell us the secret, Greg.
Well, hey, there's a guy at my pool that is a good guy. Talk to him all the time. He's like, age grouper in his 30s, probably pretty quick. Like he swims pretty good. And he started swimming with board shorts on. And I was like, one day, and he often has his Lionel Sanders cap on. And I talked to him about Lionel, and he knows me too, and where races we do and stuff. And I was like, oh, I've noticed you got the board shorts on. Are you trying to make it harder on yourself? And he's like, well, yeah, I watched one of Lionel's videos where he forgot his Speedo and he wore the board shorts, and he said it made it feel a lot harder, and he thinks it was a good drill. And so now I only swim with the board shorts on. No word of a lie, he swam with board shorts every single time since then. It's been like months. So what are your thoughts on that? Probably no bueno.
I think you guys know the thoughts on it. I will say this. I'm not a super big fan of intentionally slowing someone down. Like, oh, I'm going to swim with a parachute to build strength. It's like, I'd rather see you go fast to build strength, like, oh, don't swim with the parachute, like put on fins and rip 25s. Like, I want to see that speed strength rather than like, now if you're elite and you want to build some strength, that's fine. But like we said before, one thing I wanted to say about the strength thing, is like not Katie Ledecky, Janet Evans is one of the best swimmers of all time. Katie Ledecky broke all her records. She swam a 4:02 400-meter free, and she was 104 pounds. So she was
Tiny.
absolutely tiny. In 4:02, like I swam 3:59, and this was in the 80s. Like she swam this. So, and I'll say when I swam 3:59 400-meter freestyle, I could barely do a pull up. I wasn't strong, you know? So I think that thinking that the strength is your limiter is probably not the case. Now, if you're a 50 freestyler and you get out touched for a gold medal by 0.01, maybe you should get a little bit stronger. But that's
Wait,
that's
how
not
many
where we're
pull-ups
at.
can you do now?
2.
Probably rip like 9 or 10.
You wait, how does this make any sense?
What?
Well, how did you get weaker as you got as stronger as you got slower? I'm presumably a little bit slower at swimming, didn't swim as much.
Yeah, well, you just get older, you just get a little bit stronger. I mean, I went to college and I got a little bit faster, and we did a lot more like weights and stuff in the pool, and I was stronger, and it makes a difference, but you don't have to have like just brute strength. And maybe I can only do 2 pull-ups now because I don't do them anymore.
Okay.
No one's gonna
Have you-
fact check you. Don't worry.
Have you ever seen the movie Blue Crush?
Of course.
Okay. You know the
last night?
scene? You know the scene when they're like training, it's like a training montage, and they have rocks and they're like carrying rocks underwater, like holding their breath.
Yeah.
You think that would be a good exercise for swimmers? Strength, breath holding, water.
Well, there's this big movement. It's called deep end fitness. And one of my buddies, who I swam with at Cal, he's really big into it and he's been promoting it. And they just do crazy stuff underwater, like with dumbbells and things like that, like running with dumbbells and stuff. I mean, once in a blue moon, if it's fun, go for it. But like I said, it's not going to be the make or break. If you're sacrificing actual swimming to do that, then it's probably not the way.
Lisa,
Lisa's really still looking for that magic bullet. She wants that one thing.
Lisa, the next triathlon we have to do, we're going to put like a rock at the bottom under the 15th buoy you got to bring up for an extra 10 minutes off your time.
I'm serious. Like if we could just add one sporty thing into triathlon, like it would make triathlon so much more exciting. Like shoot free throws in T2. You have to make
Hell yeah.
5 free throws in T2 before you can start the run. Like add in
Lisa, the most intense and fit people in the world, and at the Olympics, they are actually called the most fit people, decathletes. Go do decathlon, and you will be part of that crowd.
No, I tried
So-
to heptathlon. I have tasslon.
I had this same thought, Lisa. On Saturday, I was watching the Canada-US hockey game, and I was like, why don't we have fighting in triathlon?
You should be able to fight in T1.
Yeah, all you got to do is train your swimming and your fighting, because if you're first out of the water, then you just beat the shit out of everybody, and then you go as slow as you want on the bike run.
I've gotten punched and kicked and drowned in the swim. It's full contact. I've never done it to people, but I feel like that's probably why I need to start doing it. Like I need to pay it back.
Yeah, you should. I mean, it would make. Could you imagine?
Just like the gun
okay
goes
if
off
you
and
swim
the
aside
pro
gear.
field doesn't move. The pro field doesn't go 50 meters in like 2 minutes because they're just beating the shit out of each other. Then one guy gets away and Greg goes after him and drowns him. No, you don't.
My very first 70.3, I was amazed at how like little physicality there was in the swim. I just like the swim started, and then we got to the first turn buoy, and I was in first, and I was like, what happened here?
They're scared of you.
You used to like just short course. You start. It's like it's a
You
dive.
go as hard as you possibly can to go nowhere.
Yeah, you swim as
However,
hard as you
short
can.
course.
Everyone is just like clawing at each other, and like 70.3 or really Ironman. Everyone's like, "Oh, sorry there. I'm just gonna drop back to your hip here. Oh, sorry about that."
I
Like,
feel like that's not anymore
Sorry,
though.
babe. Yeah, it's changing for sure.
With how big, especially how big some of the pro fields are getting at 70.3 distance, I mean, I don't know.
It's crazy,
I
though.
like to start away from everyone else and have some clean open water, and I still end up with the same people I always swim with.
You guys don't have clean water immediately when you start? Oh, for sure. I will say this. I did an open water swim when I was 16. It was in conjunction like with like a big swim meet. They had an open water race. And I had done some triathlons in the past. And I'm like, oh, open water? Like, I'll be good. And it was with freaking swimmers. And I got absolutely bodied off the line. And like my headspace went like awful. And I had a pity party. And I was like, is this what normal people deal with on triathlons? Because this shit sucks, dude.
Dude,
Greg,
you have no idea how many races get derailed when you're like the exact average. Like, there's like a band, like the 20th to 80th percentile swimmers, and we're all within like 2 seconds in our 100 free times. Seriously. So it's like, all right, well, I hope I, find my way through and don't get bodied by a guy who's like, because there's a few guys who are kind of slow, but they can like go out really hard
Joe
and they
Skipper.
can just ruin your freaking day, man. Because they're like going the same as you, and then they're like on you, and I get targeted a fair bit because I'm not that fast, but
Well, people
so
want
the
to
guys
draft
like
you, probably.
Sam and like the guys like Sam and those guys are always like, maybe I can stay with Jackson, and they're good, and they're like, and he's a good biker, we could work together. So like all those guys target me, but then like I feel like they always slow me down because they're like right on my hip, and I'm like, I want to be on the other fast guy's hip, and now I'm just dragging these guys. So I need to go incognito. I need to go in disguise to the next race.
I had that.
Go ahead, Nick.
I was gonna say at 70.3 Boulder, I had that moment with you because you were off my right, off getting clean water, and I was like, all right, well, if Greg's over there, that's gonna be good because it'll be open and I can just get some fresh air. And so for like probably good 150, 200 meters, I was like, oh yeah, this is good. And then I just got completely swallowed, went lactic, about had a panic attack, and I was in my head, I was like, if someone touches me, I'm gonna have a panic attack right now. I can just feel. I was just Boulder altitude was destroying me, but I had that feeling, Greg, where I was like, this is that clean water feeling. I got to get more of that.
That's the
Yeah.
best when you're beside a really fast guy and you're like, I'll just take like 5 strokes, then go right behind him. Won't be able to stay on their feet, but at least you still kind of get pulled for like a few seconds, and it makes a massive difference. You still gain like a couple
It was
seconds
great.
off in your first
Well,
100, and then you're in a
and
better spot.
you can get into swim dynamics so much. And like that race was actually kind of unique because there was like no real front pack. And the front pack had like Trevor Foley essentially in it because there was like small packs. But it was just because what Chase and I did at the beginning. We went to the opposite side. So
Yep.
everyone's over here on the left. I said, I'm going to go to the right. Chase and I are next to each other. I say, okay, Chase, when we start, I'll pull right, you pull left, so we don't swim on each other. And then who's ever in the lead will just take the lead and then we'll work together. And only Nick Quinnett could get out of that crew to like get over with us. But then you guys just slowed yourselves down so much. So then all of a sudden it ended up being this like weird race where Foley gets on that group, but then there's guys that are normally in that group who got like really pulled back. So that happened in the first 200 meters of the race. Essentially, the
Yep.
whole dynamic of the swim changed. But yeah, and I really like what I keep talking about Brenton Ford because I think he said don't be a victim. You have to like go out there and like hold your own in the open water, but it can be tough and daunting, but it's all goes back to that mindset like we were talking
And
about.
that's why 100 top speeds like gets you out. But man, like Greg, give me some advice. I've been able to do 100 get outs. No problem. I can do repeats on meters like 108, 106. Like that's pretty good for most all triathletes. Like, but I always get trumped in the open water. It's normally because I get lactic after about 300 to 400 meters of that same effort. But it's also like I'm trying to stay with the front group a little bit, but I also know that I'm not going to, so I'll just try to hold my own until everyone catches up. But like what if your 100 repeats are good enough, but you're still getting pretty bogged down after like that first initial surge, what would you recommend?
Well, is it your 100 repeats that are good, or like what about your like 100 actual like 100-meter speed? I would
Yeah,
say
like
try.
those they're not super super fast either. Like my top end isn't not like drastically crazy than my repeat times.
I would say yeah. I mean, just I think working on the top end speed is also important. And the way I try to intervene when someone with this is like just small doses, like 4 to 6 25s at 90%. Like if you're in a short course meters pool, like do 4 25s at 15, at 30-second rest and do like 4 or 6 of those 3 or 4 days a week. It's not that hard. And just like get used to like that might just like click it a little bit. So then when you get out maybe a little bit slower than that in a race and settle, like maybe you can clear a bit. But I think doing a set where you blast a 50 essentially as hard as you can, rest, and then do 3 100 steady or threshold,
Okay.
and then finish with a 50 fast again. Like the changing of the gears, but you might need to spend a little more time going closer to a minute pace, which I think is a good target to shoot for. In terms of like how fast you should be able to do 100. Not every day at the end of practice or so, but in the end, from a dive, I could go 53 in short course meters and 54 long course probably still. So if you can only
That's
go
a good standard.
105, yeah. So I think you need to be within like 5 to 6 seconds, or
Okay.
something like that.
Perfect. I love it. Thanks, man. Been looking for that little nugget. That's the one thing that is going to change my game. One thing.
Hey,
It's
secrets.
only one thing. Secret.
Just make sure you change it enough, but not too much, so that I can just go on your feet.
Anything for you, bud. I'm here for you. I'm only going to be around for a few more years. I'm going to dedicate it to you.
Probably me too.
Greg, when you're talking about like gears, that's something that I think pretty much no triathlete knows what you're talking about. Can you just touch upon that? Because I know we know what you're talking about, but
It's just like the ability to change pace, essentially like in the middle of a lap. Like, can you swim a lap and in the middle of it change pace? That's like someone's watching you like, oh, that person's going slow and now they're going fast. That's changing the gears. And the ability to swim like more than 2 or 3 speeds, which is why I do a fair amount of descending work for people that I like to coach, just so it's like, or hey, can you do 10 100s and descend every single one? Like that's a good test. Like, can you start easy enough and descend a second or two on every single 100 just because you have gears, right? And it's like, how many gears do we have on the bike? We got recovery, we got endurance, we got zone 2, we got upper zone 2, we got low tempo, we got threshold, we got VO2. I mean, there's all these different, and it's quantified by power. And I think this is something similar in the pool. You have to be able to swim at different paces because your stroke will change a little bit too. And that's how races go, especially if you're a pro. Like these aren't steady swims. And if they're not for us, the age group at the top of the age group field, it's the same way. Like mass starts and Kona and things. I mean, those require similar demands to a professional race. So yeah, it's really about having the ability to control your pace and effort and see it with the times, I guess I would say.
yeah, would you say a good way, obviously 25s, you're saying descending, whatever the distance is, or maybe within the rep, say you're doing 200s, you descend every 50 within the 200, stuff like that is what you're referring to. And like you said, I don't think a lot of triathlete or triathlon coaches that don't have the experience you have even know that that's a thing, right? Because they don't even know that's a thing in running. So we have fartleks in running, but a lot of coaches might not even understand that, like, oh, well, we're just playing with the rest, playing with the length of this, and then you're playing with the speed. Maybe you're doing 3s with 3 minutes with 1 minute rest, right into 2 minutes with 2 minute rest, and you're trying to get faster. It's all just, oh, well, just hold this pace and do this. Go out and just do that. And yeah, like bring that to the swim, that same idea, but get faster, right? Like you can have more gears in the swim. I think you said at camp, you said 10 gears is kind of what you should shoot for. Can you descend 1 to 10 for 10 hundreds?
You can do that on the track, certainly. So you should be able to do it in the pool.
Yep, 100%. And you gotta practice it. And like you said, the 200, if I would say do a 200 and I want you to swim it straight and I want you to, build each 50 or say descend, right? So each 50 is faster than if you gave that to a triathlon and you got out a stopwatch, I guarantee you one of the splits would not like correlate, right? They'd go like 37, 36, 37, 36. And you'd be like, dude, like they can't even do it. Physiology, they could easily do it, right? But in the pool, they can't. Which is why you need to.
People tend to descend too much at some point. They might go like whatever, like 130, 128, 124, 123, 124 again. And then it's like, you've got to be more in tune than that to do 10 of them. But how many, I think it's a cool challenge. Like, okay, descend 10, then the next week, try descending 12, try descending 14, see how many you can get. Because I think theoretically, you should be able to do like, what, 20? Like even a slow swimmer, maybe they start at like 2 minutes. Slower swimmer, like starting at 2, and then if you know what your hard one's going to be, like, okay, when I get to the really hard ones, I can do this, and this. You just go back from there, and okay, I've just got to start really damn slow, and then you should be able to do a lot. Doesn't matter how fast you are.
Yeah.
Well, that's good too, because swimmers don't understand how slow they should actually be going. They just get stuck in this 60% effort that is so frustrating to watch, because you ask them to go any slower and they haven't changed a damn thing. I'm like, okay, we'll go slower. Slow your kick and heart rate and breath rate. And they've done the same thing like 7 times in a row. I'm like, you have
The
to
swim is so bad for that one. It's so bad.
You've got to learn how to go slow to fine tune the foundation of what you need to go fast eventually. But if you just go medium half-ass this whole time, like for 30 minutes straight, just so you can get your 1.2 goddamn miles in, like you are not going to progress. You're not going to understand the point of swimming, and you will never fall in love with it like you should. And that's the whole point of this podcast.
Dude, it resonates with me so hard because I'm constantly like I get in for a workout, I'm swimming slower than everyone in warm up. And I'm just like, I swam with some of the best sprinters on the planet in college. How slow they would go in warm up would absolutely shock you. I mean, it's like they swim a 50 yards in 40 or 45, like just going so slow. They sprint 18s. I mean, it's over twice as slow. Then you see a try, like everyone I see get in the pool, I'm like, bro, are you sprinting the first lap? Like, relax, dog. Like,
because we're cold and we got to warm up. It's cold the first.
We're talking to Lisa this whole time, like rant.
Lisa literally has not agreed to change one single fucking thing that she's gonna do. She's just sitting here like, she just chimes in once every 20 minutes, like, I'm not changing that.
Just like, how do I fix this? Tell me how. And we like go through the spiel and tell her all the sequences and very personal. And she's like, no, I need to go fast to warm up. Like,
cold, the pool's cold. That's why we swim the first 50 fast.
If you know your warm-up speed, you will never be a fast swimmer.
Ooh.
And I really do believe that. Like
I only know
would
it.
you be looking
I think
you wouldn't be looking at the clock in the first 10 or 15 minutes when you get in. There's no point.
that applies to all 3 sports.
That's
Yeah, I
the
like
point.
that.
But we got to frame it in a positive way. So, hey, try not looking at the clock for 10 minutes and you'll have fun. I don't know.
Try thinking about getting
it's
yourself to a
minutes.
point where you're feeling good when the warm-up's done.
Yeah.
Not tired, not, worn out from doing the warm-up, but feeling nice and ready to go.
Yeah. No matter what the warm up says ever for any coach that I've had, I always swim long enough to where I can feel like I've got on top of the water. I'm rotating. Like I just have a stance that I know that I get to. So whatever warm up is, like sometimes I'll swim mindlessly for like 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm like, oh shit, well, I guess I'll start doing a couple of the activation sets now. But that's my favorite type of warm up. I just tune out the world. I don't listen to anything. I just feel my stroke get better and better. And I actually get like amped by that.
I'm going to try that tomorrow.
Well,
Yeah.
Lisa, to your point, every time I get into the pool and I jump in, I scream as loud as I can every single time because it's like a little bit
heard
cold and
that.
shocking. But I get
That's
in,
cute.
I just scream. And then you'll feel a little bit warm, and then you can go easy. You don't have to sprint. So try that out. There's
I like
8. That's
that.
the secret.
I'll
There's
try
the
that.
secret.
Because I don't jump into the pool. I don't jump. I don't dive into the pool. I like inch my way into the pool. I hold on to the diving board, the start blocks for backstroke, and it
Can't get
takes
one dive in. No way.
solid like 60 seconds to like off the wall.
I usually get them to take the chair that like lowers you in.
Lowers you.
You know there's going to be a fast swimmer getting into the pool when they like literally just walk for like the first half of the pool. Like I've seen Greg and Mark and some other, like they just get in and they just kind of just walk. And I'm like, what? You ain't even swimming. And then they just finally, I guess I'll swim today, guys. Don't worry. We're like, you bastards.
And they do that on recovery too. That is like the most swimmer thing to do is like, oh,
Yeah.
it's easy now, and then just walk half the length of the
Just
pool.
start walking until it's deep enough. You bastards.
That's very true. That's very true.
Well, I have a question, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Well, we don't have to wrap it up. But we're talking a lot about swimming. So me personally, Greg, I am like a very mediocre swimmer, but if I put fins on, I am a god in the pool. Like,
Goddess.
no, god, like
Oh,
just a
capital
god.
G.
Yeah. And like I like say it's like Garrick is here and normally like his normal swimming is here and my normal swimming is here. And say we both put fins on. I'm like here. Like I'm like really good at the fins.
I get faster with fins.
I know you do. Okay, you get here and I get there, but I get the gap gets closer. So what about my stroke?
Because your legs are strong.
So is it just because I have strong legs? I like need them. It's not that way with the pole. I'm like, I get further away.
I've heard this before, like both ways with fins and polling. It's always hard to just say, like unless you see someone. But yes, obviously you have strong legs, so the fins accentuate the legs. I wonder if it helps you like point your toes a little bit more. There's less drag. Like maybe your toes aren't as pointed as you think they are when you're swimming normally. And then also like fins just help hold you up. So like if you're kicking and you have strong legs, maybe you're just higher up on the surface, you know, in proportion to Garrick, the greatest swimmer on the planet, perfect body position. The fins don't help his body position. Lisa comes in, suspect, and then the fins raise that level. Well, and it's like the whole wetsuit versus non-wetsuit thing. Like obviously a wetsuit helps a weaker swimmer more than a stronger swimmer, but it's hard to say. But maybe you're just a gamer too. You put on the fins, you're like, all right, I'm gonna go fast now. And
I am. I'm like, let's race me.
That's
I put
it.
So that's
fins on
probably
and-
why, because everyone else is just like, I'm going to try to swim with these
Foot
fins
size,
and working on
too.
my technique.
yeah, I think
Feet
your
size.
feet size matters too. Like
Size
you
matters.
probably have little feet. Like actually in Cal, when I was 5'10" on the team, like I got size 9.5 feet. The guys, when we put on fins, I was closer to guys like in kicking than I normally wasn't. But I think that had to do with like just the size of your flipper, essentially. Like if you got size 14 feet, you're gonna be a pretty
I got
good.
flippers.
Yeah, you probably got size 2 feet, so like little munchkin feet. So
9. They're above average, I think.
wow,
That's a
That's why you
7.5
got so
men's,
much.
right?
That's why you got so much torque on the bike.
I've been foot doping for like 6 years. No one's figured it out. I've been like getting prosthetic toe lengthening surgeries now I'm size 13 and no one's guessed it, but that's what's happening.
Hey, I think there was a very famous triathlete whose feet grew a couple sizes when they were 21. Maybe they were feet doping. We're not gonna say who it was.
I don't even know who that is.
I do, but Nick's got the biggest feet of anyone under 5'9" in the game.
But your toes are so wide
Are
apart.
they 11.5 or 11?
Sometimes even a 12 in certain shoe brands.
Big
That's
dog.
crazy.
You know what that means? Big stocks.
And a big penile.
All right, so
All right, I've got to freaking
All
go
right.
to bed. Are we wrapping this up or am I
yeah,
going early?
we're gonna hit pass or smash. But before that, people don't realize swimmers like they're built like freaking bodybuilders, man. So in Windsor we hosted FINA short course world champs the one year, and we had like front row tickets to watch. And these guys are jacked and they're
Sprinters
huge.
are.
Yeah, it's crazy. Watching them swim short course too is hilarious because they make the pool look so small.
Look at Caleb Dressel. He is he is what a man should look like.
Yes, he is a god. Beautiful human being.
All right, we're coming up on an hour here, so we're gonna do pass or smash. So, Greg, you can provide for these answers. You can give as much or as little context as you want, but I'm gonna say something. You say if you pass or smash. Like I said, justify it or not. I'm here for it. It's up
And
to
we're
you.
gonna react.
All right, snorkels.
Pass.
Oh,
That's like my comfy blanket. You know, like when everyone has their like comfy blanket in the pool. When I see drills sometimes, I reach for my snorkel. And I know that's just like I know you need to progress past it, but sometimes I'm just like, oh, I just put the
That's for
snorkel
me
on. It's fine.
personally too. Obviously, it can be a tool. Snorkel caps, I'll smash that. That'll get you put some hair on your
oh my
peaches.
gosh, I can't
Ooh.
imagine that.
Um, that's like where you put a cap on the end of your snorkel and it resists your
And
breathing.
you put tape over it and just basically put a pencil hole through it.
Oh
That's
man.
actually some of the lowest moments of my entire life have been snorkel cap moments where you're thinking you might be dying, but if you don't do
Look,
it, you will get in trouble.
I like that because most swimmers they cannot handle the buildup of CO2 and that makes them panic. And so like I get it. I get it. That makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
it totally makes sense for like CO2 tolerance and things like that, which is important for sure.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
a lot of people just have no idea how to suffer in the water, and they when they do start to do it and they get in a race, they get panicked and they have panic attacks, and that's why we see that quite often, right? All right. Well, we touched on this quite a bit, and so fins,
Smash.
Yeah.
Let's smash them.
uh, paddles,
Smash.
smash. Lisa, I think you'd smash that too, right?
I probably smashed some paddles. Oh, I mean, over my just normal hands, you know.
Yeah. Lisa is notorious for every time I see her swimming, she's got paddles on.
No, that's not true. Fins, I've
Even
had
in
fins.
even in the open water.
Can I say one thing about paddles? Paddles don't build strength. Swimming fast builds strength. So,
Ooh.
don't be like, oh, I'm swimming easy with paddles. I'm building strength. No, you're not. You're not building strength. You're just swimming. Like you have to
Greg,
swim at a decent effort to build strength. And swimming
Greg,
fast is what builds strength.
come out
What
with a
about
line
fins?
of shirts, and I want you all of your
Yeah.
catchphrases on the shirts. I will wear them every single day of the week.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's
Please
good.
do it.
That's good. Like but it does help activate your muscles. So you know that you're activating your lats, your triceps at the end of your stroke, stuff like that, right?
People say that. I've never had a tough time activating anything when I'm
Yeah.
swimming. So but people say that, and I have to recognize that. But it's not for me personally. That's not been something I do. But a buddy who I swim with who got fifth at NC2As in the 400 IM back in the day, he is always putting on paddles. Like, no, 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 I need this to warm up. So to each
Okay.
his own.
Yeah.
I will say if you're not chafing running on your lats, like that space in the back of you're not swimming enough. Your lats aren't big
Mm,
enough.
I disagree.
We won't use Lisa's catchphrases for t-shirts.
Pass.
That would be a long one. If you're not chafing, you know that spot.
All right, next.
Fly in the middle of free sets.
Smash.
Yeah, I stole that one straight from your Instagram, so I hope you smash.
Oh, phew.
Just because it'll make you puke.
All right. Efforts based on heart rate in the water.
Pass.
Pass. Okay. I don't
But I'll
disagree
provide
with
some
you.
context. It's
Yeah.
like I just think you can't get too focused on it. I think go by effort. And if you want to do some heart rate checks too, but don't be like, oh, I got to do like zone 2 and be at 100. Like have an idea, and we would do it in college. Like the coach would be like, hey, heart rate check. So they're making sure you're swimming. But I'd rather just like you hone in on the effort and then use data. You got to train like a swimmer before you can get away training like a triathlete.
It feels like cardiac drift in the pool's a little bit more prominent too, just because of the level of stress and mechanisms that go behind it.
That might be true. I think you also get more dehydrated than you think, which might play a role in that, because you also end up peeing a lot after you swim, but then sometimes you can also be dehydrated. It can get weird with the hydration too. So
Is it weird, Greg, that I never take anything in ever during any swim ever?
Yeah.
I mean, I did that majority of my life. So I don't think it's that weird.
I see people just like downing everything. Jackson's got 3 protein shakes. I'm like, I'm good with the water.
Not
I'll
for the
take some
swim,
more.
it's for what you're doing after the swim.
Yeah, I use it now in the same context, like if I'm doing something after. But I mean, most swimmers get up and rip 5:30 workouts and don't eat. I think it's changed now. Fueling has changed for all endurance sports, but
Yeah.
back
Eating
in
is
the day,
cheating.
definitely not. Eating's cheating.
But that's why swimmers, when they come over to triathlon, they have no trouble with eating. Like during the race, before the race, like all that. That of the three sports of athletes that come in, they're definitely the best. Cyclists aren't bad, and runners are terrible.
True.
Smash or pass? What's next?
All right. Hard reps from a dive: 25s, 50s, or 100s. Not a question.
25s.
Just, yeah.
Multiple choice.
Smash. I'm smashing all of it. From a
Good.
dive, I'm in.
Okay. Floaty pants.
Is Blue 70 listening? Pass.
Except if you just ran 18 miles and you have a recovery swim, it's probably not the worst thing.
If you can't keep your legs up when you're tired, then
Get out of my pool.
I think there is something to be said though. Like, you could just swim easy and like mix it up. Like, you got to be able to keep your legs up when you're tired. You don't have to, you can still kick easy. I mean, kick's balance, right? So maybe there's a time and place. I really haven't been convinced that that's like a useful tool in any scenario.
Look, if you're a good swimmer, I think it's a reward. I'll use it once a month when I get in there. I'm like, oh my God, this just feels amazing. Like, if you're a bad swimmer and that's your training wheels, get out of the pool.
Yeah, it can't be a crutch for sure. Like, oh, every time I'm tired, you start using them, then it becomes like detrimental, right? So
Yeah, Matt.
once a month is the limit.
I knew that.
Catching strays.
Yeah. Did you hear
Every
that,
time I'm
Lisa?
tired,
Once a month. Don't start wearing them.
Every time I'm tired, I put a band around my ankles and swim easy.
Nice. I put a.
The
I
lifeguard
take a-
has to jump in.
Oh, you should ask that one. Pass or smash band on around the ankles.
He's gonna pass.
For
Yeah,
short.
I think I got to pass on that.
Short distance. Really?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I could see you
Uh,
passing on that.
Yeah. All
He's
right,
never
Garrett.
done
Guess
it,
we got to
so
rewrite our swim
Yeah.
plan.
No, I like I like the band. I always come out of it and swim well. I think it's another one of those like activation things. Just like when I take the parachute and then all of a sudden I start swimming like way better after using the parachute.
Yeah, I think if you have a purpose behind something, it's like, and you like it and you feel good after and you use it for a purpose, like use anything you want. Like wear a watch, except there isn't an actual reason for a watch. But like for a band, I can see that, right? Like no one can be like, oh, the watch helps me swim faster. I'm like, no, you're full of shit. But the band, I could actually see.
The thing about the band too is you have to get to a certain point of swimming before it's useful
Yeah.
to you.
You have to be fast enough. That's what
I've never been to that point of swimming.
I think probably Garrett's the same, but I like it because it's like it's all I can do to keep a decent body position with the band. Like it's like a struggle, and I have to do relatively short reps. But then when I take it off, I'm like, oh, now my hips are up because like I've activated all those things, and now I can kick. And then like I think probably same for Garrett, but
yeah,
then that makes sense.
Find a way to do it.
Good general rule for gear. Like if you don't know why you're using the gear, you shouldn't be using it. But if you have an idea and it makes sense to you and you're using it strategically, gear is for advanced swimmers as tools. It's not for like developing swimmers. Like, oh, I use a buoy because I'm working on my body position. Like that doesn't make any sense, right? Like you need to work on your body position first so you can use the buoy to assist you to go faster.
Hey, I just had a cool thought. Let's create a watch that is big enough to be like a paddle that is a watch. So that way when we swim, it just acts as a paddle during the race and it's legal. So I think that's
You're not even allowed
watch.
to wear watches during the swim anymore. Did you know that?
No, we can in Ironman.
No, ITU only.
Oh.
Yeah.
Paddle watches, they're coming out.
Why? Because they were people like clubbing people with their like Phoenix 8X Mega Max 5-pound watch.
Solar. All right, what's the next one?
All right. Raising Cane's.
Chicken?
Chicken?
Yeah. Yeah. I threw this
I'm
in there
gonna
because, yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
gonna say smash, even though I've never had it, but I like me some fries.
Come to
I have a
Vegas,
story
man.
about Raising Cane's. When I did in 2022 or whatever, when I did the Daytona and then flew to Indian Wells and raced whatever
Within
it was, like
17 hours
36
of each
hours
other?
later. Yeah. I got to the airport at like midnight, and then it was like an hour and a half drive to the Airbnb. and I was hungry, and I had the Uber driver recommend somewhere, and he's like, "We go to Raising Cane's," and I was like, "What the hell's Raising Cane's?" Went to Raising Cane's, smashed like a bunch of fried chicken and greasy old meal, and then the next day I felt pretty good, and then I had a good race on Sunday. So, smashed the Raising Cane's. Must have been it.
I agree.
We got the first one in Michigan here in our town, and it like shuts down this. It shut down this major road for like a month of people just lining up to get this food. I've never had it, so
It's
that's why I
like
threw it in.
imagine Chick-fil-A on steroids.
Wow.
So, but I'm doing Ironman Texas, so I'm gonna have to have a lot of chicken and a lot of eggs.
No meat, red meat. Red meat.
All right, Greg, Garth Brooks.
Smash.
Thunder Road, baby.
Garth, you didn't know the song "Low Places" at camp, so it was your first time hearing Garth Brooks. So I just wanted to know, is pass or smash?
I'm fully in now, and I like to support all the Garth Brooks fans out there.
Greg's super serious response. All right, that's all I got for pass or smash because no one wanted to help me today.
You didn't ask me, but thanks for insinuating that I don't care.
Well, Nick, I'm just happy you showed up today because you almost weren't able to make it, and
I know.
like you bring so much value to the conversation, especially with swimming.
The
I feel
first
lost
time with
when
all
you're
of our
not
hosts
here.
on at the same time now, eh?
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop.
Must be hard,
Oh
Greg.
wow, this is pretty
Nick's
good.
got a sick microphone. I feel like you're like a cold caller.
Oh. Yeah, I had to pick up some extra
across my
hours.
desk that I know you're not going to want to miss out on.
I've got some Tupperware that you can drive a vehicle over if you want to sign up right now.
Oh man.
No, I really appreciate you guys having me on and talking about swimming. I like doing it. So,
Greg, whatever it is, you're hired, man. That's all I got to say.
Yeah,
except for
man.
Lisa, I won't coach Lisa. She's uncoachable.
You told me you would coach me for free. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
Lisa
but I
is
realized
not
you're
coachable.
uncoachable. So,
Lisa's someone like who will not change based off of any sound resources. She will only change based off of like some extreme event that's happened to change her life. Like that's
Getting
the
a
only
surgery.
Yeah.
I swear
And we
my
love-
left shoulder, once I get that one done, I'll be a great
Wait,
swimmer.
you got the tenodesis? I think I need it, man. My
You do need
shoulder tendons right here just always fucking hurt. It's so
Yeah,
annoying.
you just got to relocate that bad boy right down on the.
Just a surgery. Can't be something I'm doing wrong. I gotta get a surgery.
I need to get some plastics. I need to get bigger chest muscles. I'm gonna get some implants.
All
All right. Thanks, Garrick.
Yeah, thanks, Greg, for
Thanks, Garrett. Thanks
coming
all
on,
y'all.
man.
Yeah,
Thanks
it was
for
super fun.
imparting your wisdom. I can't wait for all the t-shirts.
Yeah, it was good to see your guys' face. It's been a while, so I missed you.
Yeah.
We'll see ya. I'll see you in a couple weeks. However long Oceanside is.
6 weeks. 5.
6 weeks.
Shit.
Hot damn, we got to find some fitness. At least I do. It's gone.
All right, let's sign out from this podcast, guys. Until next time, peace out.
Ow.
Bird off.